So thanks for having me here today. I'm not dropping O days. We're going to look at basics, and this is based upon my experience in the summertime. And you know, I'm Bill Gardner. I teach digital forensics and information assurance at Marshall University. This is also called what I did on my summer vacation, because when I don't teach, I consult. So last summer, I had a lot of fun doing assessments for small and medium-sized companies. None of this represents the opinions of Marshall University. I think I misspelled opinions, maybe. Anyway, so if I say anything stupid, it's my own stupidity, not Marshall's. Also, thanks for Marshall University for scraping up the money in a really tough budget year to send me down to speak to you all, and they are, I guess, an unofficial sponsor of this event. Hi, I'm Bill, and I'm a hacker, the good kind, not the bad kind. I also play WoW players in here. Oh, come on, it's going to affect your grade. I always tell my students playing Alliance will affect your grade. So I'm on, I just changed over a PvP server, which is funny because now all I do are raids and dungeons, which is PvE. As I said, I'm an assistant professor at Marshall University. Also stabbed some people, apparently, according to the news feed. But anyway, I'm an author. First book, Building an Information Security Awareness Program, came out August of last year. Still haven't made a dime on it. Go buy it, please. Google testing, Google Hack Penetration Testers comes out. They tell me now, Singress has been all over the map with this. It's been in post-production for a month and a half. Now they're telling me it will be out by Christmas. So it makes a great Christmas gift, birthdays, anniversaries, and all the money that really we're going to make off of Google hacking is going a big part of it's going to support Johnny Long, Hackers for Charity. If you don't know Johnny's story about picking up, selling his house and everything he owns and moving to Uganda to help people, the poorest of poor in Africa, check out he's got a couple of talks on YouTube. We're actually agreement with Singress to revise his no-tech hacking book. Has anyone ever seen Johnny's no-tech hacking talk or read the book? Very good book. I'm the CCDC advisor, and unfortunately, we've never made it beyond virtual qualifiers. This is what's known as public shaming. So we're hoping this year that they do better. One of my students captured a flag and a black badge at Secure WV this year, so I'm very proud of him. So the first thing I did was have him go back and tell the rest of the team how he did it. I'm a volunteer for Hackers for Charity. We started a Hackers for Charity student group at Marshall. It's the first of its kind. So we're raising money for Johnny and sending it straight over to him. And they have a lot of fun doing it. And the biggest problem has been trying to explain what Hacking for Charity is. But we have a lot of fun, and it's a new student organization. So it's getting people at the student level already in the idea of service and service learning. They're having a Mario Kart tournament coming up next week where everyone's going to throw in $5. We'll send it over to Johnny. They also, there's a membership fee, $5 a person, so every semester they collect money and send it to Johnny. Today is the 45th anniversary of the Marshall University plane crash. It was hard for me to fly yesterday for that reason, which sounds weird. Has anyone seen We Are Marshall? It's the worst sporting disaster in history, but today is actually the day we turn off the fountain at Marshall University. So I didn't know this coincided with this, but this is a very emotional time. If you haven't seen We Are Marshall, it's a great movie. I'm the host of Reboot It. Does anyone listen to Reboot It? That's what I thought. I think there's like 5 people that listen to it. Anyway, rebootitpodcast.com. It's also on iTunes. Last couple weeks, we've talked in All Threat. Last week we talked about red teaming. What's red teaming? What's penetration testing? What's a vulnerability scan? People in our industry tend to throw those together and confuse them. I think we tried at least to define them. I have really bad knees, so if I start wavering up here, it's not that I'm drunk, not yet. but my knees hurt all the time. So if you have to follow me up or down the stairs, I'm sorry. So we're starting here. I guess I can't wonder too much, right? This is the security pyramid. It actually appears in the first book. The first thing you need to do to build a mature security program is start with policies and procedures. The second would be user training, patch management, and all on up. I'm not going to read it to you, but people are buying way too many blinky light boxes, putting it in their environment, and wanting it to do magic for them. There's a lot of companies that will sell you Cyber APT Protector, but do you really know what that box is doing? If you're going for the top of the pyramid without doing the things at the bottom of the pyramid, you're really doing yourself a disfavor. And I see this a lot in small and medium-sized companies. So what's a penetration test? I think the penetration testing execution standard is really the best definition. And if you go check that out, Dave Kennedy, Chris Nickerson, some other people got together a few years ago, put together a really nice website, as well as defining the terms. They have the execution standard, which talks about the tools that you need in order to do proper testing. So pre-engagement. The first thing you want to do is walk in someplace. Usually they think I'm there to get everyone fired, which is always fun, because I usually see clients after a breach. And I, to this day, say that nobody cares about security until they get breached. So we usually go in and say, you know, what do you want? Do you want a vulnerability scan? Do you want a pen test? And you have to explain to the client the difference between the two. Scoping, like Kevin Johnson said earlier in his keynote, that scoping document is very important, and you should never go beyond that scoping document. Technically, if you do, you're breaking the law. Your get out of jail free card only applies to the things that you agree to in that first meeting. Scheduling, you know, I'm pick and choose what I do, which is pretty cool, but if you work at a large organization, you probably have people selling penetration tests with way too little time to actually do a proper job. So that can be an issue. Also pricing. Smaller organizations have different needs, so you tend to price that differently. I've been going through a flat fee model for my smaller and mid-sized clients than doing it hourly. Then there's different kinds of penetration tests. Define. I once had a contract for a wireless penetration test, which was really the easiest thing I've ever done because I showed up and they didn't have a wireless network. So whenever you have people making the decisions that aren't technical, be careful. One of the things, the thing, and I didn't say this. This is my friend Dave Kennedy who came up. I'm sorry, I'm name dropping. I just want to give credit where credit due. I'm going to name drop and get hell on Facebook before it's all over with. Your job as a network defender, and this is a sort of a network defender talk more than as an offensive talk, and we'll talk about blending those together later on, is to protect what makes your organization money. So if you work at Coke, you're protecting the secret formula for Coke, which is basically gasoline and something else. Here it dissolves pennies, but I'm not sure. If you work at a big drug firm, you're protecting the formula for Viagra. I didn't get as much as a laugh as I thought it would. But anyway, so your job is to protect things. What I run into with smaller companies, say you're a law firm and you do medical defense, you're going to have lots and lots of medical records. I have one client in West Virginia that we estimate, has more medical records than many of the small hospitals in West Virginia. If you're doing product liability defense, you have the drawings for all these products. If you're doing drug interaction defense, somebody dies because they took a specific kind of drug, you're going to have all this information sitting in your network. And the first part you need to do is convince people that, yes, somebody wants it. And usually that, unfortunately, I hate to say the Chinese do everything, but they love intellectual property. So they're going to look at the weakest link. They're going to look at your business associates, and you're going to target those people. So whenever you're doing testing, make sure that your client who engages you to do that testing understands what they're getting themselves into, and then try to figure out if you know what you're getting yourself into. Does anyone here work at a small and medium-sized company? Okay, a couple. Who works at Fortune 10s? Okay, wow, Fortune 500s? Fortune 1000s? Okay. Who does penetration testing? Who buys penetration tests? So we need to talk to each other about what a penetration test is. Who thinks that a penetration test is a Nessus scan? Who thinks a penetration test is an Nmap scan? Okay, well, either you're lying to me or you're pretty educated about this. One of the things in scoping you have to deal with is a lot of small and medium-sized companies don't know what's on their network. And so when you show up and they don't know what's on their network, you have to step back and say, well, we're not having a penetration test. The first thing we're going to do is figure out what's on your network. And this sort of goes into what I'm going to talk about coming up, which is purple team. Who's heard of the idea of purple team? So purple team is red team, blue team working together. So if I show up to pwn your network, and your network, you don't even know what your network is for scoping, how am I supposed to pwn it? The other thing is, you don't want to throw people to the lions if they're not ready to fight in the gladiator cage. And most people who, the reason that people buy things like penetration tests at this point are they're either dealing with some sort of industry regulation, or they bought cybersecurity and the insurance company says, we need you to show us that you're secure. I can make a lot of documents writing emails saying, yes, you're secure. The problem is that most of these companies who are engaging for these sorts of activities never have done the basics. Back to the security pyramid. They've never built policies and procedures. They're not patching. So definition of what you're doing and when you're doing it is very important. Identify your technical contact. Whenever you break their network, you know who to call and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break your network. Because things do go wrong. The other thing that you have to define is when can you do testing. Most people only want you to test at nighttime, which is lots of fun when you can't stay up all night because I'm getting old. Really, and I say plan for things going wrong because they will go wrong. So what's some of the tools that we use for small and medium-sized networks? We just start with a harvester. It's amazing. You can go to the website and find a lot of things. Lawyers love to tell their life story on the website. Where they were born, what schools they went to. One of my clients has their secretary and their secretary email and phone number listed on the website. So if you can't spearfish the main target, you can always get their trusted person, which is their secretary. You know, Harvester is a great tool, but a lot of times you don't have to go that far in order to gather information about an organization. There are some really big challenges to social engineering in a smaller organization. You know, in Andy Griffith's show, when all the strangers showed up from out of town, they were there to do wrong. Well, when somebody walks into your network, you don't know who the hell they are. You're going to get a lot of questions. They know who the UPS guy is. If you come in wearing a UPS uniform, it's not going to end well. Even sending email. I did a spearfishing campaign as the system administrator in an organization this summer. That didn't end well because they all knew the system administrator, knew how he wrote, realized that that didn't sound like Matt, and maybe they ought to give somebody a call. I think smaller organizations is probably one of the toughest environments for social engineering that you can find. The other thing is the old USB attack. You don't leave a bunch of USBs lying around, right? Well, at least in West Virginia, people return them. Oh, I found this USB. It's probably something important, so also very hard. They need to be a lot less polite. So one of the things I did find is that people are busy and they don't pay a lot of attention to things like domain names. So I bought a lot of domain names that was one letter off this summer. And that worked wonderfully because they see that domain, they don't look that close at it, and then they end up actually clicking on links and things. There's an interesting tool out there called URL Crazy that will help you with this, that will go through permutations that might be available, but you're still going to have to do manual work looking to make sure that those domains are available. And go with a cheap domain registrar. You don't want to spend a ton of money on this because you're going to have to charge it back to the client. So go out and find a $6 domain registrar so you're not running up your expenses. So technical challenges. I work at home from the summer. Guess who my internet service provider is? I don't know what the hell they're doing with ports, but it just did not work. So I had to move beyond Comcast somehow. And the way that I did that, because we've already talked about the other things in this slide, is the VPS, SSH, and PTF. Does anyone know what PTF is? Penetration Testing Framework. So in the olden days, when you rolled a cloud box, you spent all of your time trying to figure out how you're going to install Metasploit this week, because it seems to change every time you turn around, and hunting down tools. The Penetration Testing Framework, which is a trusted sec Dave Kennedy tool, will basically install everything and its brother for you. But let me forewarn you, it will break things. He actually recompiles the kernel at one point. So if you use Armitage, for example, it does not work if you use the specific tool. But it's great for using on a VPS because you don't need a graphic user interface. And in about 40 minutes at the most, even on a slow connection, you have a totally up and running penetration testing box. My personal favorite is Linode. Does anyone use Linode? Amazon's gotten weird about using their AWS for testing. They also have way too many features for me. I look at it going, okay, now how do I restart this machine? So I've moved away from Amazon. The other one is Social Engineering Toolkit. Very simple ways to phish people. And if you don't know about the Social Engineering Toolkit, there are tons of videos out there about it. But basically, the Social Engineering Toolkit, you can do browser attacks, you can clone websites, then use that one letter off domain name. So set to the rescue. How many of you are still clicking on shortened links? We all do. These still work in phishing attacks. So if you're doing a test, shortened links still work. We have trained users to click okay, yes, and click shortened links because they're busy. So shortened links still work. I heard an interesting story about phone factors. Anyone here using phone factor? So it's a two-factor authentication. So it will either call or text you, I believe. Whenever you're logging into something, you just click OK. Well, I know someone that was on a penetration test, and he says he's never had a problem getting around it. That basically the user will see something pop up on their phone and just click OK. And he asked why they were doing it, and they're like, it had to be something important. I log into stuff all day. I didn't know. Maybe I missed logging into something. If you're using phone factor, you may want to put that in your security, information security. Sorry, I'm getting trolled while I'm standing up here. Is this live streaming? My friends will troll me at the strangest times. And I'm like, anyway. So what are we talking about? Who are you people? This is the worst in teaching. So VPS plus PTF plus set equals WIN, win. So really we've entered a time where when you come in and you're a black t-shirt wearing jackass and you pwn all the things and you write a report saying you pwned all the things and your client's stupid, we really need to move beyond that. And that's the reason for blue team. I mean, purple team. Purple team was originally, I think, was an idea of Mick Douglas, I know that Martin Boss, and Eric Milam have done talks on, as well as Dave Kennedy, on Purple Team. And the idea, the way that I use it with my clients is that I say, once you build all the ground level stuff, so once you write the policies and procedure, once you help them figure out what's on their network, they're still not ready for a penetration test. Let's see if you can detect specific things. So you say, I'm going to send exploit X. Did it work? It didn't work. Did you detect it? If they say, I'm still waiting for it, and you've got shells, they have a problem. So then you try to figure out how to fix that. You know, it's not just saying you have a problem. You have to help them move beyond their problem. And you can do that in this sort of engagement. I don't sell security solutions. I'm not going to sell somebody a blanky light box. There are some things, if you've got Active Directory domain issues, I'm not going to come in and fix your Active Directory. But I will help you test your security in this kinder, more gentle way. Most small orgs or even medium-sized organizations don't have mature security programs. Lack of documentation, lack of policies is a problem. And red teaming in a small or medium-sized organization doesn't scale well at all. If you have, if you're a Fortune 10 or you're a bigger organization with resources and you have a lot to protect, red teaming is for you. It's sort of penetration plus plus. But generally, it doesn't scale well for medium and small businesses. Reporting. I've seen some really bad reports out there. The most important thing you can do is do a good, succinct overview about what the problem is. Write an executive summary that explains the business impact, because your job is to figure out how they need to protect what makes them money. And the technical findings need to be in there, but that's not something you're going to throw up the top. It's going to be at the bottom. So how do you figure out if someone broke in your network? I was actually noticed that Secure Ideas used to have a product called Network Scout, which he's changed the name to Scout, God bless him. Network Scout is something that was developed by my students. It's a Raspberry Pi, and you run the Pis in it's sort of a network monitor. We're using Dave Kennedy's artillery. And then it has a reporting interface. So basically you put one of these in each logical or physical part of your network, and then it reports back to its own SIM, or it will report back through a syslog, or you can use whatever you want to in order to watch alerts. But this doesn't go to the edge of your network, it's inside your network. You should never see a thing on it. So if somebody clicks on a link or opens an attachment, social engineers you, this thing's going to tell you, hey, there's somebody trying to pivot inside your network. It's free, it's open source, low cost, and it's on GitHub. It's the best place to find it if you look into it. It's a lot of fun to build. They did things like add an LED screen, so it tells you what the IP address is. Because if you plug this thing in your network and start scanning for it, it's just going to ban you, which is a problem. But generally, we've had good experience with Network Scout. It has scaled well for bigger for bigger networks, and I use these a lot in my smaller medium-sized clients. So, do you have any questions? I told you I could run through this fast. Yes, you and the.
When you're running your purple team, so are you switching the blue guys and the red guys back and forth, or do you leave red team be red and blue team be blue and let them basically get the best that they can be through their offensive or defensive?
I think that when we purple team, basically what we're doing is we're coming as red teamers and we're saying, hey, how can we help you? So it's a lot of skipping down the highway holding hands. I don't know that people understand what red teaming is sometimes, so you have to let them understand what red teaming is. Maybe they'd be ready for a red team engagement, a pure penetration test, but you have to help them become a mature organization first. And purple teaming is about helping an organization grow their security program, to become educated on their security program more than anything else. Does that answer your question? And I do as much network defense as I do offensive stuff. I mean, I spend as much time defending networks to this day because someone got pwned or, you know, they're getting attacked. It's a very important website. It needs to stay up because it's for an event that's coming up in a couple of months. So I do a lot of that too, and I'll say it now, I do a lot of it for free. I have a job. So, you know, if you have some problem, let me know. I'll help you as much as I can. I get bored in the summertime. I'm not used to having summers off. And that sounds like a really weird problem, but, you know, I come from an IT background as an IT administrator and a manager where I worked 80 hours a week on a good week. And academia is taking some getting used to. But without moving in academia, I would not have the opportunity to come do this. I wouldn't have the opportunity to write books, so I'm not knocking it. It doesn't pay well, but I'm happy. Any other questions? If I bored you all to death? You're not as sleepy as most of my students are, so I guess we're okay. And it's after lunch, too. This is a tough crowd, so I appreciate you coming out to see me. I'll be circulating around here if you have any questions. Also, I'm looking for someone to share an Uber with to the airport tomorrow. Should be like $400, I think, a piece.
What time is your flight?
I think it's at 6 or 7. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're taking Uber, sorry. Yeah. You're all by yourself.
I've already had this discussion with people, so please go out and do the ATM jackpotting challenge, pick locks, even get in the CTF. There's no better way of learning than doing. So thanks for having me again, and I hope to come back. I like this conference a lot. Thanks.